Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as part of our Belmont card series, we're going to be looking at the late pick four for Sunday's card. So let's take a look at the sequence. First leg of the late pick four is the sixth race. It's a claiming race for $35,000, non-winners at three, lifetime, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, and it's run on the inner turf at 6 furlongs. And we do have to note right off the bat that there is a coupled entry. And so I've approximated the post position. So please make sure you double check before you put in your tickets. Number 2 in the one hole is Angela's Party Girl. And you do get Rod Ortiz aboard, which would signal perhaps some improvement. You're getting Route to Sprint here. The cutback looks good. I mean, you can see the last couple of races, this one has wanted to be up on the engine early. And so I think second off the layoff, which is a halfway decent angle for the trainer here, and Route to Sprint is good. Everything looks pretty good, and I think a rod signals probably a pretty good race. So Angela's Party Girl is one to think about. Everybody's loves Linda in the 3 hole. I don't really see a whole lot. Maybe a 4-year-old debut would signal a good effort, but this is on turf, and we don't have any turf races prior to this, and there's no real indications that this is going to be a big improvement for this one. So I think the tab is short too, so I'm going to pass on this one. Brisky Frolic ran a big race last time, and you can see it was moved off the turf to the dirt in the mud. But I think it does signal that this one's in good form. You can see prior efforts. This one's been very competitive, and you're moving back to turf, and I think that's this one's done pretty well here, and you can see that was on the engine in that race. So moving back to a sprint is I think a positive move. The only question I have is that I'm wondering about a bounce after a really big effort, and that's really my only question mark. Fantail is part of the coupled entry, so is at number 1. Be also eligible as the 1A, so they'll be running from the 4 hole. And I don't really, this one just sort of hangs around in the last couple. I don't see any reason why. This is bumped at the break a couple of times, but I can't believe that was too big of an impediment. Watched the last race, didn't really factor very much. It was kind of a clunk up fourth, and you can see it was rather distant. So I don't really see any signs that this one's going to improve mightily, so I would pass. Justin Nyquist at number 5 made a fairly decent close in the last one. And again, it was on the dirt, and you go back to the turf form, and it was okay. It was pretty good, and got a second in the maiden claimer at 2 turns. Cutting back to a sprint, I'm not overly certain that's a really good thing for this one, based upon kind of a mild close, nothing really serious. So I'm not sure it's going to help things too much. However, you can see an improvement over the last 4 races. And so I think maybe this one will run a pretty decent race. So probably one you want to consider under more than on top. Dufresne is first time for a tag for Linda Rice. And the last race was, wasn't very good. I mean, it was just she was up the track. And now, had run on turf previously and had been okay at the N1X state bred level. But now going for a tag, I think maybe is maybe a sign that they've pretty much had enough here. So I'm in second off the layoff isn't a bad angle, and you do get Jose Ortiz. But I don't know. I mean, it's there's mixed signals here. This one could very well be up for a tag, but you could also, this one could also factor in the race based upon the prior form. And just don't like a horse coming out with such a poor effort for a debut at 4. And, again, there is class relief here. So this is one that, yes, you can consider, but also might be dressed up. It's just a little iffy on that. More Mango just hasn't demonstrated anything to tell me that this one can run at this class. It just has been up the track for the last several, and don't expect improvement. The also eligible, the main track only is Liberty Flame 1A, part of the coupled entry, and tends to run on the front end and is dropping to Acclaim for the first time from the N1X level. Not the first time, but I apologize. But run a couple times at the N1X level, did okay, and he's probably back in a class where this one would be competitive. So if she draws in, I would likely use. Second leg of the late pick four is the seventh race, and it's an optional claimer for $62,000 for non-winners of 3 lifetime, and it's for 3-year-olds and up. Run on the dirt at 1 1/8. And important to note, the configuration at Belmont, 1 1/8 is run around 1 turn. So again, as always, we have to consider that the inside horses got to hustle. Otherwise, they do have the potential to be shuffled back with the chute. So just something to think about there. Number 1 is Total Impact. Don't expect a lot of early speed from this one. This one runs from behind. Has been in pretty good form, but I'm not sure that you're going to get the pace to run to here, and that's really the only question. You got Linda Rice and Jose Ortiz. They've been a very potent combination, and this one is in good form. I'm just not sure at 1 turn that this would have the best opportunity to run his best race. That's really the only question I have. But I think you could certainly use this one. But I have a feeling under is probably a better bet. Curbstone should be the early speed. Debuting at 4 years old, has been running really good races and seems to be getting better. So I think in class, this one ran at 1 1/8 around 2 turns last time, and won pretty handily. So 1 turn is absolutely going to improve the chances here, and I think this one is a logical use. Systemic Change is Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, good connections there. You see they went at 33%. So there's a lot to like there just off the bat. You got Claravich Stables, that's Chad Brown's client. You see this one sold in Keelan for $180,000, so there's some good intent there. You do look and note that for few efforts to break the maiden, and but was getting a little better each time, and is coming off a career high at the N1X level. And was, full run in the stretch. So I think that all systems are go here. This one, I think, would need a step forward. That's really the only big question. Is it likely or possible? Of course. But I'm just not sure that this one may necessarily have enough to take this one down. But with these connections, kind of hard to deny, you probably have to use. Galt, I think, is very interesting in this case. This is a horse where I think the 1 turn, 1 1/8, is really going to help. You take a look and see, even at the last effort, the 1 turn at Aqueduct, this one ran a really solid race, got a second in class, and you go back and you look at Belmont, a 1 turn mile back in June, and this one won. And so it looks to me like, they obviously had some good intentions for this one early on, putting him on the Derby trail for a little while. But it seems like the better efforts for this one style in particular, 1 turn is really going to meet between the eyes. So I think there's a definite use. Back ring luck. David Jacobson's a hot barn right now, and you get a Rod Ortiz, so there's a lot to like here. There is this one's parked on the outside. It's not that big a deal with only 5 horses in the race, and I think 1 turn is definitely what this one wants. You see in the last race at 50,000 claiming a little cut below from here. This one ran a really solid race, just kind of got caught at the wire. So I have some questions about class with this one compared to the rest of them in this field. It's kind of hard to go against the top connections here. So, I mean, if you like this one, I wouldn't talk you out of using. But as you can see, this is a fairly deep field. So there's a lot of ways to go, and you probably have to spread. I mean, it's pretty deep. The third leg of the late pick four is the eighth at Belmont, and it's an optional claimer at $45,000 for non-winners of 3 lifetime state breds or New York breds, 3-year-olds and up, and it's run on the turf at a mile. And it's important to note in the configuration, this is a one-turn mile, so horses to the inside have a little bit of an advantage, and coming out of the chute. So it's from the outside post, it's a little difficult to get to position. We do have a couple entry in here as well, so be on the lookout for that. Thankfully, they've numbered it for me this time, so I don't have to guesstimate. Number 1 is KP All Systems Go. I had a pretty long layoff, and it looks to me from what I can see here, this one doesn't fire very well off the bench, and so I'm going to wait one to see how this one does. I don't see much else otherwise that's encouraging. Number 2 is Boss Making Boss Moves, and the date is coming off another one coming off a long layoff. Will be debuting at 4. Has had a little time to adjust to things a bit. You see, the form wasn't bad. I mean, they even put this one in the graded stakes at 1.5 miles. Down at Parks, but kind of limped into the finish at 3 years old, and I don't know. I mean, I think I'd probably want to wait one with this one. I mean, David Duggan's pretty good with first with the team, but ever since that top buyer in the Albany Stakes where he won, it's been kind of downhill ever since, so it makes you wonder. It seems like there's some talent here, but I don't know, I'm probably thinking to wait one on this one. Hush of a Storm, I think, is one that fits here. The only thing you got to worry about is this one's coming off a career high buyer in the last race, and it was on the dirt. That's true, and the last 3 have been at a one-turn mile, so you know that's going to be a fit here. Just wondering about a bounce. This one had made a steady progression for the first 3 starts of the 5-year-old campaign. And a lot of times, that means a new form cycle is going to be starting. So I have a couple of questions about that. This one is certainly a fit. Doesn't appear to be quite as good on turf as on dirt. So there's a couple of questions here, but you get Flavian Pratt. William Morey is a pretty good trainer, and second off the layoff is a really good angle for him. So I think this is one you have to use. Microsecond is the second half of the coupled entry, and has been really off form since they freshened. So I don't know what happened, but I'm certainly had some good form on turf a few back, but those last 2 efforts were just really so bad that I'm going to have to wait one. I'm just not going to take a chance. Catch That Party, trained by Mike Maker. You got a Rad Ortiz aboard. They're at 31% when they hit. This one fits in the class, is running fresh, and there's no reason not to use. The only thing you got to worry about is it probably won't. The post won't be too much of an issue, I don't think. And I think all systems are go, and I think logical use. Agent Creed, that always worry about a horse who wins a race and then goes to the bench, and that's probably my biggest concern. You can see at the State Run N1X level, this one was pretty competitive and did pretty well, and it has a few wins. So Ray Handel is a good trainer, and he's 29%, 71% in the money in this spot with long layoffs. And you get Joel Rosario, who's really been redeemed himself this year, and particularly on turf with a horse coming off the pace. That's a custom fit for him. So at 10-1, this is one maybe you want to think about. Sundays with Sandy is from Michelle Levin, a hot trainer, and got Jose Lascano, a hot jockey. So you got a lot of things to like right off the bat. The thing that I like the most is that this one seems to be the only pace and should likely be able to get on the lead. There isn't a lot of pace in this race. The only thing you got to worry about is the last three have been a little bit of a regression since that career high in 91. Buyer three back. That's all been on dirt, so the move to turf might be the tonic to help a little bit. I think, 12-1, this is a pretty good offering when you consider there isn't a lot of pace here. Michelle Nevin is 0 for 8 first off the claim in this spot, so but, again, when the barn is hot, you can kind of overlook those things a little bit. So I think because of the lack of early pace and this one's back class, I think is a definite use. Frank's Art is trained by Christophe Clement, and you got Manny Franco aboard, and they're a good combination. This one, isn't bad. Has been predominantly running in sprints. Has a couple efforts around 2 turns at Saratoga and didn't do bad. Has been in class for the last couple and has been okay. The only thing it's the interesting thing is Christophe Clement is 0 for 5 in this spot, but he did go to his A rider for this one. So I'm expecting a better race, and second off the layoff is a good angle. So this is one I think you can think about as well. Battle Scars is really the big issue with this one is he needs pace to run to, and I'm not sure he's going to get a whole lot of it here. The last race in particular, you see he was dead last, and he came from the clouds. It was a really nice effort to get the win, but I'm just not sure he's going to get the kind of pace setup. You see most of the time when he does well, he's got some pretty quick fractions to run to. And so that's my biggest issue with him here. I think he's in good form, but I think under is more likely due to the lack of pace. Barrage is another one trained by Ray Handel. This one is, if you do a little deep dive, this one becomes pretty interesting. Ray Handel is 2 for 12 in this spot. However, both wins came with Dylan Davis aboard. So he's got Dylan Davis. He called on him for this one, and you can see the 2 efforts he had with this horse. He got a first and he got a third in class. So I think this one's a really good fit here, and coming off the layoff should be fresh. And you might, 10-1, I think is a good value. So I would use this one. Not Far Now, I think probably will try to get to the lead, but in the 10 holes is really up against it, particularly with the configuration. The 6 horse is going to get the jump on this one, and this one's mildly competitive in the class. I think it's a little bit of a step up, might be a little over his head, so I'm going to pass. And also the fact he's up for 45,000, that's a big red flag as well. You can also say that about number 11, Ghost Giant, up for the tag. And you see the last few efforts really haven't been anything to write home about. Stretching this one back out to a mile. You do get Johnny V, but, the form is way off from what it was last year, where this one would have been competitive in the class. So I'll pass. The last leg of the late pick 4 is a maiden claimer for 40,000 for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, and it's running the inner turf at 1 1/16. And again, want to make sure we look at the connection and note it's more of a turn and a half race than it is 2 turns. Horses to the inside will certainly have an advantage. So you have to keep that in mind when you're taking a look at the field. There is also a couple entry in here, and thankfully they've numbered it, so I don't have to worry about it. Number 2 is Shopping at Bloomy's, who will have the rail. This is a pretty good spot for Bob Falcone, and he's having a good meet, and you see he's 35% first off the claim. He is 0 for 3 in this spot with 3-year-olds and older. But again, when a barn's going pretty hot, that's something you can kind of discount a little bit. And you're getting the bug, Jaime Torres, and he's been doing well with him as well. He seems to be, he's winning 47% for the year with a nice ROI. So I think this is one we definitely have to use. Derwin's Painter, I thought might have something. to offer in the last race at that maiden 30 and crash, and it just has not improved whatsoever. The move to turf earlier did elicit a career high buyer, but you see the horse was up the track, so I don't see a whole lot. You're getting Jose Lezcano, and Phil Serpe can throw a bomb in there here and there, but this one looks more dressed up to me than anything else because I just don't see any progress. Number 4 is Carapara. The last one was the second off the layoff, and I didn't see a whole lot of improvement there, even with the drop to State Bred Company, and seems to be sort of leveling off as far as progression goes. And was kind of one-paced in the last one and didn't make any real significant effort to compete. So I would pass on this one. Let Me Drink, Bruce Levine, good trainer, good claiming trainer. He's got Dylan Davis aboard, and I think that this one looks like they finally, the ownership finally decided to drop this one into the claiming ranks, and I think that was the ticket. Ran a good race. It was around 2 turns last time, but it was a solid second. And you see the note of willing. Always like to see that for the next start. And dropping in class, again, I think was the right move. And I like this one in this spot. I think it's a use. Burnt Again will probably be, it's kind of strange because the last race, this one came from off the pace and was okay, had a pretty good effort. Looked like a horse who maybe needed a race. And you are going back to 1 turn here, which probably helps. The interesting thing is to wonder whether or not this one's going to get up on the engine. That would be logical here because there isn't a whole lot of pace. Turf, this one seems to rate a little bit more, stay in the back, but on dirt was up near the engine. So I would think they would send this one. It makes the most sense due to the lack of pace. But I think it has enough in the tank to be competitive here. My June Bug, that first effort, got a third, but it was on dirt, and it was around 2 turns. West Coast is not the greatest turf sire. Obviously, they had some intent to put this one on turf. Michelle Nevin, again, it's a hot barn right now, but she's not that great first time with the team. It usually takes them a little while to get within her training regimen to perform best. You see, first off the turf, she's over. So I'll wait one on this one. War Museum hasn't demonstrated much to indicate that this one would be competitive here. You see the first 3 efforts has been up the track, and yes, stretching out, maybe that's going to help a little bit, but not enough for me, so I'll pass. Midnight Empress, Rudy Rodriguez, Javier Castellano, pretty good tandem there, but didn't do any running at all in the first effort. And there's a whole lot of firsts here. You got first time with the trainer, first time on turf, first time on Lasix. There's just too many firsts for a horse who's kind of marginal at best, so I'll pass. Orange Freeze is kind of interesting in that you see the jockey change to Joel Rosario, and I think that's really important here. You see the first effort of the 3-year-old campaign, this one had way too much to do. It was way in the back, and the notes are a little, they don't really, they make it like there was a real trouble trip. I don't think there was that much of one, to be honest. But had way too much to do and made a halfway decent move. It was too much to do late. You do see that this one got near the career high buyer coming off the layoff, debuting at 3, so that's a good sign. And I think putting Joel Rosario in the irons here, he's familiar with this horse. He'll know to get this one up closer to the lead. It's a tough spot from the 10 hole, but he's got a little bit of room to negotiate. So I think you can use this one. It's particularly when you consider that Clement is 22% in the spot when he switches to Rosario. So that's a pretty good sign that there's going to be some good running here. Number 1 is Denise of DeGrace, the other part of the couple entry. Orlando Noda is cold for the meet, and I don't see much to indicate that this one's going to be a factor in this race, so I would pass. You do have some also eligibles. Follow the Fed is stretching out to a route for the first time, and you do get Flavian Pratt, but I think the outside post is a big issue for a horse who wants to run up near the lead. And there's at 12-1, it's not a bad price, but I think I like others better in this spot. My Car of Me and Mine really, didn't show much in the last race, and we didn't expect it. Stretching out again, this one just doesn't know how to win. That's the bottom line, and I'm not going to invest in a horse who's 0 for 13. Oak Loves a Fight likes to run underneath. I mean, you see a lot of seconds and thirds. This one has a late running style. Again, there's not a lot of pace in this race. You're getting third off the left, which is a good angle for Orlando Noda, but his barn is kind of cold. I think underneath would probably be the best possible scenario for this one. So if it does draw in, you maybe want to think about using under. So here's what our ticket looks like for the late pick 4. In the 6th, we're going to use 2, 4, and 6. In the 7th, we're going to use 2 and 4. In the 8th, 3, 5, 7, and 10. And in the 9th, we're going to use 1, 4, 5, 9. So that's 3 times 2 is 6, times 4 is 24, times 4 is 96 at a 50-cent base. That's a $48 ticket. A couple of the races, you can probably spread a little deeper if you want to, but I do want to keep the ticket size economical. It's a pretty challenging race. I think it's one of those sequence rather. I think it's one of those you just plant your flag and hope for the best. Pretty interesting sequence for a Sunday. I think there's some good value there, and hopefully we can take it down. I wish you the best of luck in formulating your tickets. Hopefully this analysis helps. We're going to continue with our Belmont card series all the way through up until the Belmont Stakes, including Monday, which looks to be a pretty good day. There's some nice graded stakes, so we'll have something for you on that, as well as Santa Anita. I believe is going to have a pretty good card on Monday, so we'll double up and provide that for you as well, so you can look forward to that. We will be doing our Elements of Handicapping series the closer we get to the Belmont, and I'm thinking about adding some extra features there, maybe attuned to pedigree, because that's a really important element when you get to the 1.5 mile distance, so be on the lookout for that as well. If you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe, and we thank you for coming by, and I'll be talking to you in the very near future, and until then, be well.